Hi, I received a request today from a knitter wanting to make preemie baby hats, and they want to use double knitting and make a closed bottomed tube. And so there are many ways to do this, and she was looking for a suitable cast on method, and in all honesty, anything will do. You can use a plain straightforward continental cast on or long tail cast on, just as usual, and then double knit into this. So the joy about double knit tubes with one single yarn is that no matter how tiny they are, you're always working flat. You're not wrestling with lots of needles sticking out. So I've cast on an even number of stitches. That makes life easier. You can do uneven numbered tubes, but with an even number, you don't even have to think. Every row is the same. You knit the first stitch, bring the yarn forward and slip the second stitch. So the stitches that you're knitting become the near layer fabric, and the stitches that we are slipping will become the far layer fabric. So it's knit one, slip one with yarn in front. So now I've worked every alternate stitch, and if I turn it around, this last stitch was slipped with the yarn in front. So now I'm going to work it on the next row. So the second row is exactly the same. Knit one, yarn forward, slip one, or knit one, slip one with yarn in front, whichever you prefer. It's just a difference in terminology. I'm going to do a few more rows and then I'll show you what it looks like inside. It takes 2 rows to equal 1 round, and that's my cast on stitch, and I've done 3 rounds, and I can check on the other side. There's my cast on stitch there with the twist at the base of it, plus 3. So I've done 3 complete rounds since casting on. And to open it up and have a look inside, take 2 receiving needles, take a front stitch, a back, a near, a far, whatever you care to call them. And there is our little tube of fabric with a closed bottom. So if you use a regular cast on edge, you will have a ridge along that lower edge. And you can open the stitches like this and then just treat it as a regular bind off. So this is the last stitch I worked. So I can start binding off down here just as you ordinarily would. To make an edge beginning with a near layer stitch, we want to put the yarn over the knitting needle and hold on to it. Then we want to purl up the second stitch. So reach away under both, purl up the second stitch. Reach forward, grab the back yarn over the top and bring it forward and make a knit. Reach under both, back over the front yarn and make a purl. Try this with 2 colours, it's so much easier to see what's going on. Reach away, grab the front, do loads of them till you get into the swing of it. And I want to finish with a purl to have an even number of stitches. Purl that front yarn away from me. Now, when I start the next row, keep things taut. It doesn't have to be fierce, and twist the yarns at the end of the row, and then with the yarn that's attached to the ball, begin working just as we did before. Knit one, yarn forward, slip one, repeat to the end of the row. I would avoid working on circular needles with a flex at this point until you've done at least the first row, because this cast on edge will disintegrate when it gets onto the narrow part of the needle. I'm going to repeat that row several times and then show you what it looks like. So here we are a few rounds later, and there is the nice round bottom. The corners will need a little bit of fiddling with to make them as neat as possible. And if we open this up, you will notice that the fabric we produce in double knitting is a bit looser than you would expect with the same yarn and needles in regular stocking stitch. So you probably want to use smaller than usual needles when making a stocking stitch fabric by this method. But there is our nice little bag, and it's true circular knitting, and the corners just need a little massage, and now it can be bound off as usual. If you have a fairly large piece of knitting to do, you can make it a lot more efficient by working it inside out, and in which case I would set the stitches up so the first stitch on the needle belongs to the far layer and the second one belongs to the near layer, and purl that, and work the row going slip one, purl one. Now the first advantage is the fact that we don't need to keep moving the yarn out of the way as we slip the stitch. It drops out of the way. So we're slipping one and we're purling one, and we can repeat that over and over again and we will get reverse stocking stitch. Once you've worked the first round, you can speed things up yet further by combining the action of slipping and purling into one needle movement. So go into the stitch to slip and the one to purl simultaneously, pull the left needle out until the slip drops off. It does take a bit of practice not to purl the two together. So into both, throw the yarn, pull the left needle tip out till the slip drops off, and complete the purl. This really speeds things up. Not only are you not moving the yarn, you're only putting the needle into the work half the number of times. And this will produce a reverse stocking stitch tube. This fabric grows very quickly, and with a little practice it's very speedy. Just remember, it's better to drop that stitch off than to try and wiggle up in between. So there's definitely a knack to pulling that left needle out and letting it drop. And the most common mistake is to accidentally purl two together, which then bonds the layers. This can be opened just the same way as before, and I would bind it off in reverse stocking stitch. So the first stitch belongs to the far layer, second to the near, and so on. There's our little bag. And if we flip it inside out, there's the stocking stitch side. It also actually rather hides the cast on, so if you were in two minds about the cast on edge, maybe do it in reverse stocking stitch and no one's going to see it anyway.